and ordering in. So we're talking about eating in social situations, eating in restaurants, ordering food, and how we go about that. How do we stay low carb, yay, low carb, high fat, and still enjoy these things? Because I think one of the tricks for making a ketogenic lifestyle sustainable is finding ways to still enjoy the things that we like to do. So if we enjoy going to restaurants, we like going out to eat with our friends and our family, we love going to parties and weddings and events. Part of making our lifestyle sustainable is finding our strategies for these types of things, because life will not stop just because you're not eating carbs. Everybody else is still going to be eating carbs. You're going to come across situations where it's difficult to actually stay on plan. So what are the strategies? How do we do this? Well, it took me quite a while to get the hang of it. But what I found is there's some places that are really, really easy, and there's other places which are really, really difficult. And some places where I just don't eat at all. And I'll sit there happily enjoying my friend's company, drinking a black coffee or having a carbonated water, or just enjoying myself, enjoying their company, and realizing that a lot of joy comes from being with people, and it's not just about the food sometimes, depending on where we are. So let's start off with talking about some of the places where it's really, really easy to eat ketogenically. And for me, some of the best places have been sort of steak restaurants, places where you can get the piri-piri chickens, so the sort of char grilled half chickens and these types of things. So quite meat heavy restaurants and things like that I found quite easy to eat ketogenically. For example, if you go to a steak restaurant, well, you just order a steak, you order some nice butter sauce or peppercorn sauce or something like that. You order some green vegetables, extra butter, and you have a perfectly ketogenic meal. So steak places are really, really simple. And burger places can be really simple as well, because when you take the bread off and the ketchup, that's it. You've got a keto meal. Your cheese and your bacon and your burger and everything else is absolutely fine. So there's places like that I found it really easy to eat ketogenically, and I normally swap whatever the side is, either the fries or the potatoes or the pasta or the rice or whatever it is. I swap that out either for a side salad or some veggies, and we're perfect. We're on. So there's a lot of places where that's quite simple. So we look at our protein. It's a fish, or it's poultry, or it's beef, or it's pork, or something, and then we just look for the carbs and swap them out. So you've got to be careful with things like salad dressings and things. It's probably best to ask for your dressing to come on the side, because if you see it and it is honey mustard or something like that, then obviously you're not going to want to eat it. So yeah, maybe some olive oil or something. See what the kitchen's got, really. Yeah, so I haven't found restaurants, to be honest, that difficult. The places that I do tend to find difficult is places like a Chinese restaurant, where there's lots of noodles and lots of rice, but also the very sweet sauces and coatings on things. So I have found Chinese restaurants quite difficult, especially in the UK, where I think our version of Chinese is not actually that authentic, and a lot of the sauces have MSG and sugar and all sorts of things in that I don't eat. So I have found it quite tricky to eat in a Chinese restaurant. So I think if you are planning to go there, maybe it's worth discussing with the kitchen maybe what they can do to reduce the amount of sugar in your food, or maybe there's something they can do without sauce and just some stir fry some vegetables and some meat maybe. But yeah, Chinese not so easy. Same goes for Thai restaurants as well. It's finding those dishes that don't have the rice and the noodles, and then obviously checking the sauces as well, because a lot of Asian cuisine does have this balance between sweet, salty, savory. And don't get me wrong, it's absolutely delicious, but obviously when we're eating ketogenically, that sugar is not something that we have in the diet. So just be aware that when you go to places, that it's the source often that can be the issue. Got a few people watching, so please do say hello, drop a comment, and I'd love to hear about your experiences of eating out and ordering in, and how you've built your strategies for still enjoying life and eating ketogenically. Please start a keto restaurant. Well, it will be a bit of a trek for you anyway, Sonia. But it's something that people need to do, don't they? I'm not much of a cook, so I'm never going to be a chef in a restaurant. I'm going to be the one telling the chef what not to put in it. But anyway, hi Sherry. Yeah, so thank you for your comment. Mexican food. Now, Mexican restaurants, we do have them in the UK, but obviously they're not as big as they are in the US. And I do know that lots of the meals can be made keto, but it does depend on those sauces and those seasonings that go into the food. So potentially, for example, if you were to have fajitas, now, there's nothing particularly bad about chicken or beef and peppers and a few onions. That's not really the issue. The issue is in the seasoning that they use. Now, potentially, it could be fine. It could just be salt and chili and paprika and garlic and those sorts of things, but it could also be sugar. So worth, again, speaking to the restaurant to understand if their food is ketogenic. But again, if you can find a steak or something like that on a menu, then that's probably going to be the safest bet, really. But yeah, don't have lots of Mexican food here, but I think if I was to go to a Mexican restaurant, I think I'd probably go for fajitas. Obviously, I wouldn't eat the wraps, and try to get some sort of salad or something. But yeah, I think we tend to, as a family, gravitate to somewhere that we can all get a really good meal and not have to worry too much. So we tend to go places where I know that I can find something. Oh, yeah, Mongolian barbecue. Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually, Cheryl. Particularly if it's you know what is in the food, and you can make your own sort of dish. And I know that where we are, we've got something quite similar. It's a noodle place, but again, you don't actually have to put noodles in. You could just have the meat and the veg, and they would stir fry it for you, and just add your chilies and wherever else. So yeah, definitely potential with things like that. Yeah, and yes, and I was a huge lover of Chinese food as well, Sherry. And you know that in the UK we're lovers of our Chinese food and our Indian food, and it's definitely something that, as my diet has got cleaner and cleaner, I've kind of come away from the Chinese restaurant, because first of all, there's the sugar, but secondly, the monosodium glutamate is even more fattening and really highly addictive. So if anyone's eaten a lot of Chinese food and realized that you can fill yourself till the point of being sick, and an hour later want more of it, then you kind of understand how addictive and how much you overeat of that sort of food. So yeah, we don't have the Chinese takeaways, much to my husband's disgust, because he absolutely loves Chinese food. So we don't have it so often, and I tend, if we're going to do it, I tend to cook it at home, because then you've got that control, haven't you, over the ingredients and things. Takes me on to Indian food, because that's the greatest love in the UK. We absolutely adore Indian food, and I'm such a fan that it took me to India twice. So I absolutely adore it. And again, I have been to restaurants where it's been very, very easy to eat. I've had sort of dry curries or things cooked in the tandoor, so chicken cooked in the tandoor, or lamb on big kebabs and things like that, and it's just been really, really easy to eat with a side salad, and you just kind of avoid the rice and the bread. Really, it's quite simple. But I have also been to other restaurants where even the marinades on the meat that go in the tandoor have been sweet, and I've really paid for it the next day. I've been very, very aware that I've eaten a lot of carbohydrate, even though it was just the marinade. Lovely, yeah. Oh, I tell you what, that's the one thing that I will take on board that I'm absolutely great at cooking curry. I do like it. Everything else though, I'm not so good. You know, I managed to, you know, burn veg in a pot of water. So yeah, I know he eats in work. I know he does. He's terrible. Yeah, what I don't know apparently doesn't hurt me. This is someone who works with my husband who's commenting now. So yeah, so what he does in work obviously doesn't hurt me, but he's well under the thumb at home and will eat what he's told to. Anyway, moving along. So what else can we do then in terms of eating out? One of the places that I found really, really difficult is cafes and coffee shops. And I know we've got the sort of the same big names as they have in the US. So in terms of Starbucks and you know, all those types of things, we have them here. And it is pretty much impossible to find any food to eat in those places at all, to the point where I just don't. And even then you've got to start thinking about, okay, so what am I going to drink in that situation? Hi, I'm Julie. Yeah, so what are we going to drink in these situations? So if we're going to a coffee shop, for me, I mean, I'm luckily I can drink a black coffee, so it's not too bad. But I always say if you want to whiten it, then the best thing is double cream, also known as heavy whipping cream in the US and Canada. So that would be the way to go there. Be really, really suspicious of the creamers and the sweeteners and the syrups and all the things that they add into hot drinks. They're really, really not good. As far as I'm aware, there are no keto approved syrups or anything being used in any of these coffee shops. So I would say that it's time to grow up and take your coffee black. You know, because that's how it's meant to be, believe it or not. But yeah, if you need to use a little bit of cream, then that's fine. But just be super, super aware, or go for a herbal tea or a black tea or something like that. But it is quite difficult. I know there's apparently keto versions of Starbucks drinks, but yeah, you know, if syrup contains the things in it that I know it contains, then I'm not going to be drinking that. Oh no, they put almond in your coffee. Blech, gross. I know, yeah, coffee shops are pretty much one of the places where I go for a coffee now, or even a water. So yeah, coffee shops really, really difficult. And I think it's one of those times to maybe, if you know you're going to one, maybe get yourself an omelette before you go so that you don't turn up starving and you can just enjoy the company of the person that you're with or whatever. Coffee shops not great for ketogenic eating, and I think that's maybe where we should start our restaurant. You know, if we're going to start somewhere, then maybe we need a keto coffee shop where we could have little bits of food with our coffee that were not pure sugar. Who knows? Okay, so everyone's telling on my husband now. That's the, you know. Anyway, okay, moving on. So, other places then that can be really difficult. Like I said, noodle places, Chinese restaurants, difficult. But the other place that is really tricky is pizza. Pizza is quite difficult because well, pizza's made with bread to start with, and I guess you could sit there and eat the cheese and the meat from the top of the pizza, but it does raise a few eyebrows. So as far as I'm concerned, a pizza restaurant is probably not my top of my list of places to go out to eat anymore. However, you may be going to an Italian that does other things, and if they also do roasted chicken and I don't know, steak and things like that, then you may be okay, or meatballs or things like that. So you might be fine, but just be aware that pizza places, when that comes up, you know, when they're ordering in for my work, when they're ordering in pizza, then I'm an opt out. That's just not going to happen. Yeah, so you did. Got a no crust pizza. Oh, I know. Can you imagine putting potato starch in cheese? It's just strange, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, so maybe no crust pizza will be a thing in the UK very soon, Cheryl. If I've got anything to do with it, then it will be, because that's one thing that that my family used to enjoy. They did like pizza, and now if it's pizza, then it's either just them or it's pizza cooked at home. So it is slightly awkward. But yeah, I will always, like I said, try to choose somewhere to go that's going to have options for all of us. So and for me, as long as there's like a great slab of meat and some butter and a salad or some veg, then I'm going to be a happy bunny. But you know, I try my best. But coffee shops are they're just not happening. They're just not happening. So what do we order in? Not very much. We tend to cook a lot at home now, but when we do order in, like Julie mentioned, one of our favourites in our house is a kebab. Because ultimately, as long as you don't eat the pita bread, then you're pretty much getting lamb or chicken, which is high fat as well. There's a high proportion of fat in it, and you're getting some salad. And I normally put my own sauce on it or my own mayonnaise or whatever. So and it's really flavorful and it's really high in fat. And sometimes when you're on your way home and you can't be bothered to cook, then that's the one thing that I would say is really easy to grab. I live in a seaside town, and for those in the States who maybe don't know about British seaside culture, for us, fish and chips is a really big thing, and I'm sure you've heard of that. But our chips are like fries, but fat, like like steak fries, quite fat chips, and they're all always cooked in deep, deep fat fryers, and big pieces of fish, but they're all covered in batter and then deep fried. And fish and chips is a big thing, and that is probably the one thing, because I live in this seaside town where fish and chips is a big thing. It's maybe one of the things that I do miss. Actually, I do miss that the big bits of battered cod, the mushy peas, and the loads of salt and vinegar, and the tartar sauce and everything that goes with it. So maybe that's the one thing that I wish I could still have, because it just is so reminiscent of days out at the seaside and things like that. So maybe that's one thing I do miss. So we'll have to come up with some good ideas to replicate fish and chips in a ketogenic way. Because at the moment, I'm not one to use things in the way of potatoes. I just tend to not have them. So. Oh, so Jan said she's never had a doner or sheesh. Well, you're missing out. We call them elephant's feet in our house. Elephant's foot is the lamb one, and the chicken one, which I have. Oh, you miss ice cream. Oh no. Lucky, I never was an ice cream eater. I never fussed on dessert, to be honest. So I'm quite lucky. For me, it's definitely the starches that if anything, that I miss. But now, luckily, I think my tastes have changed a lot. And there's so many other foods that I'm massively in love with. So I'm quite happy now. But I think it's definitely the starchy, savoury things that I miss, if anything. But not ice cream. I haven't missed sweet stuff very much at all, really. So I've been quite lucky, but starches, yeah, definitely. I was very much a pasta, rice and bread person. Yeah, you can freeze Greek yogurt, absolutely. I think there are quite a few ways to make ice cream. If you've got good cream, for us, I mean, we're very lucky in the UK, aren't we, with good cream? And as long as you can flavour it up so that it's half passable, then it should be fine. Okie dokie. So social situations then. I think my top tip, if you're going somewhere and you have a suspicion that it might be really difficult. Sorry, my screen is awful tonight. Yeah, if you have a suspicion that it might be really difficult for you to eat at that social event, then I would say to eat before you go. Eating before you go is easier, I think, than taking your own food with you, because sometimes that can look a little bit awkward. Or if it's someone you know and you can tell them ahead, you know, is there some way that I can get some food that I can eat, then that would be great. But I have turned up to things where eating has just not been possible for me, and I've been very, very glad that I've thought ahead and eaten before I go, and just take it again as an opportunity to realise that social situations and parties and celebrations, they're not just about food, they're about people, and they're about celebrating an event or something good that's happened, you know. And I think that removing food from my idea of celebration and from my idea of this strong bond that I had with food has been somewhat a revelation, I guess. And it's actually helped me to understand how much food is emotional, and how much we use food as a form of love, and a form of nurturing others, and of maybe as a social status as well, status symbol, and things like that. But ultimately, what we're talking about is protein, fats, and carbohydrates that fuel the body. We can take all that love and affection and socialization, and you know, we can choose to remove food from those situations if we want to, and just have food there because people need to be fed and fueled, and that's okay. But it has really come as a bit of a revelation, really, that I can go out to meet friends, and I can go out to the cinema without eating at all. You know, I don't even take a snack for me now, whereas I used to sort of be bundling and squirreling cheap snacks in my bag to take into the cinema. But yeah, so there's a lot of things that we associate with food that you can remove food away from, and they're still there. The cinema's still there, the film is still great, you're still enjoying time with your friends. You don't actually have to eat food. And what you'll find is at these events, it's not good food either. It's the very unhealthy food that comes out. Birthday is birthday cake. Christmas is chocolates and sweets, and Easter is more chocolate. And all these things are just, they're not feast food in the way that I see feast food now. And they're certainly not feast food in the way our ancestors would have seen a feast. A feast to our ancestors would have been an animal, and a high-fat meal, and you know, they would have spent days maybe preparing that feast, but it would be fuel for the body. So I think unlinking some of these pleasurable activities from foods which are really, really bad for us, high in sugar, high in chemicals, really, really processed, then that may be a good thing, and potentially we could get back to the core of why we're getting together, which is because we love people. So yeah, so that's kind of my thought process. Yeah, Festival of Sugar. Yeah, so we do, and we love feeding people, but we can be mindful now, can't we, as ketogenic eaters, about what feeding people means, what fueling the people we love means, and we can do that in a different way, can't we? With food that's tasty and delicious and filling, but actually builds people up rather than destroys them and makes them ill. So I think that we can all in this group reimagine Christmas, and reimagine Easter, and reimagine trips to the cinema, and think, and what does that mean? Yeah, very interesting, very thought-provoking when you start thinking about why we give people food that's no good for them as a celebration. It's very odd, isn't it? But it's normally peer pressure from kids. It's normally the kids who are asking for the stuff. However, we're the ones that provide it and buy it, so no excuse really. Okie dokie. So Gail said, can there be a way to make ice cream yogurt without sugar, cream? Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of dairy. I maybe don't eat it as much as people think I do, but I do really enjoy it. So they're my thoughts really on eating out, ordering in, and eating keto in social situations. I think the big strategy for me is to be mindful. Remember that social situations are about people, not necessarily about eating food. So it's okay to eat before you go. It's okay to not eat just because other people are eating. It's okay to pile all your carbs onto your husband's plate and watch him eat it. So you can do all that. But yeah, I think as you go through the journey, you do gain your strategies, and people get very used to the fact that you go to an ice cream parlor and don't eat ice cream, for example, which is something I have to do again. Living in a seaside town, I have to go to ice cream parlors and have a coffee or a water, and I think people look at me and must think that I'm I don't know, crazy to watch all these massive sundaes and sorbets and everything else being served to people, and I just sit there and I watch them. Anyway, cake and ice cream have always been a favourite. Yeah, absolutely, and it's things that remind us of our childhood. They're very reminiscent. They're nostalgic. But ultimately they are just some ingredients put together, and I think potentially as more and more people become ketogenic, then we will see more celebratory ketogenic foods. So I'm imagining big roasted meats and towers of cheese and all the things that I absolutely love. Fantastic vegetable dishes. I mean, we've seen them in the group, haven't we? The possibilities of ketogenic food are just endless. Ultimately, if you think of what we've removed, it's hardly anything. You know, it's sugar, grains, our root vegetables, and a few other bits and pieces. You know, these are only some foods. The rest of the food, the rest of the animal kingdom, the rest of the vegetables, it's all there for the taking. You know, it's all there for us to be creative with, and for us to reinvent food and reinvent celebrations that build our families and nourish people and show them our love through being nutritious and being healthy and you know helping their gut or whatever you want to say. You know, we can definitely do that, and I do think there's an irony that we celebrate by giving people food that will reduce their immune system, will increase their weight, will make them more at risk of diabetes and cancer and stroke and things. I think there's an irony around that, and the more I eat well, the more I am aware of the irony of giving children those sorts of foods to celebrate their birthdays or to celebrate achievement, or you know, I think there is an irony somewhere in there that maybe we're missing the point, I think, of celebration and of food and of meal times and of love and of nurturing people and nourishing people, and yeah, maybe going forward we'll change it. And I don't know, I said I don't know where I said it now. I said it in one of the groups. I talk too much. That for my birthday, I had a baked camembert, and it was the most indulgent and amazing and beautiful foods, and I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, absolutely, Gail. And maybe I overthink. Maybe I spend too much time thinking about food and our relationship with food. But I think that's my job. So so it's for me to have those thoughts and to explore things and to discuss it with you. as I do all my thoughts, I always discuss them with you guys. And I think that this is something that as we move forward and as more and more people realize that health is food, you know, food is the medicine that we need, that maybe we will change how we celebrate and the types of foods that we choose to be celebratory. I mean, imagine the money that you spend on junk food for a party. Imagine you spend that exact amount of money on the most beautiful joint of grass-fed beef to celebrate with your family, and you bought some good, fantastic French cheese and some fantastic cream, maybe to go with some berries or something to finish the meal. And I think you can just reimagine what a feast is, you know, or a huge stuffed salmon, or a great big turkey or a chicken or a goose or whatever. You know, these feasts can be, and when you think about that, you think about our ancestors, you think about people long ago and what a feast was. You know, it was a huge haunch of venison or something, you know, a clutch of rabbits or whatever it was that feast, but ultimately was nourishing the body. Okie dokie. Oh, birthday tomorrow. Oh, that's amazing. Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday to both of you. My daughter and I are like that. We're in the same week as well. So yeah. Oh, bless. Broccoli and cheddar soup. Fantastic. I love that. I love that soup. Anything with cheese in is good to me. Yeah. Oh. And a happy birthday to you as well, Shauna. Happy birthday. I hope it's a fantastic day, and you're spending it doing something that you love to do. That's the best way to spend a birthday. Okay, okie dokie. Right, it's late. I'm going to leave you guys to it. Thank you so much for joining me this evening on day 11 of the May Challenge. I'm starting to lose my voice. I'm going to have to think of maybe doing some sign language for the last couple of days when I'm doing these videos. But yeah, we will be back tomorrow with more of the May Challenge. And I hope everyone really enjoyed the blog I did on gut health and the microbiome. Massively important. We really can't ignore the gut health and microbiome. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And I will leave you to it. I'm going to go now. I'm waiting for my other half to come home. He's out with his friends, so I might have to help him to bed in a bit. Anyway, I will see you all soon. Have a lovely evening and see you tomorrow. Bye.